Same time every week on Fox Sports Radio, 98.9 FM, 1340 AM, flagship of the Vegas Golden Knights. Also here, and that we includes co-host Caleb Herring, the last UNLV quarterback to lead the Rebels to a bowl game. Trying to get through that quickly this time.
Yeah, you should. because it's still going to be true, no matter how fast you say it.
I think so. I mean, I don't know if they're going to play football.
Yeah, I think they will.
It looks like it, but I mean, another person tested positive for the Patriots. We'll talk about that. Also here, producing today's show, DeMond Cotton, once again filling in for Chris Magnum Chapman. Mags is much better than he was a week ago.
Good job, Mags. We miss you, buddy.
Happy you're back, but he's actually back, and when he doesn't have Raider Nation radio obligations, he'll be back in here producing. But in the meantime, DeMond is just fine, doing a great job with us, and the week concludes with the guy responding to all social media questions and comments, and intern, and now officially our social media director,
The Wiz!
Nobody beats the Wiz. Nobody beats the Wiz.
The only intern we said in the world.
The world.
The world with his own
World
theme
record.
music. He's all busy
called
over there.
Guinness.
Look at him. I think I see a little bead of sweat coming out of his forehead today.
The fastest knobs in the West.
He is just.
He types so fast.
He's just on it right
Crazy.
now. Listen, we're also streaming live on the LV Sports Network, and you can watch the show on Facebook Live. The page is called Outta Line. That's OUTTALINE. You can also follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at Outta Line Fox LV. That's at Outta Line Fox LV. And since we are live, your calls and questions are welcome. The Fox Sports Residential Bancorp studio line is 702-876-1340.
Hockey players, as you know, are warriors. They don't give up. They come to play.
Hi, this is Bubby, and it's time for What's on Tap.
What's on Tap brought to you by title sponsor Residential Bancorp. Whether purchasing a new home or refinancing the home you already own, Residential Bancorp is the company to turn to for all your home financing needs. Residential Bancorp, funding America one neighborhood at a time. On Tap, Nightcap is about familiar faces departing and some new faces coming in. Fact This has Tom Brady avoiding facts. If you watch the game Thursday night, you know what I'm talking about. Today's guests, Emily Van Buskirk of the Sports Fan Journal, talking college football, and Jose Volonte of Straight Bet Sports, talking Las Vegas Lights football. There's a difference. Football.
Accent mark over the U.
Over the U. Football. Plus NBA and MLB playoffs. S&B with C about the Raiders' chances in KC. I tried to make that rhyme. And we'll break down the big games in the NFL. And if this week's picks are anything like last week's picks, stick around, because everyone but our former producer, or our producer in hiatus, is predicted right last week. We were all right, but Mags, 0-4.
Yeah.
Mags, if you're listening, man, I'm going to pick against you today just because I'm going to go with the trend. Listen, if you're looking to buy a home or refinance the home you currently own, choose a company you can trust. Residential Bancorp, funding America one neighborhood at a time.
Hockey players, as you know, are warriors. They don't give up. They come to play every game.
It's time for Nightcap, a cupful of the Vegas Golden Knights. From highlights to interviews to special events, the puck starts here.
Yeah, the puck starts and stops here, and Vegas Golden Knights, of course, making it to the Western Conference Finals for the second time in their 3-year history, a little earlier this month. But that season's over with, and now we move into free agency. We move into the NHL draft, and in free agency, a lot of things happen. One, I've been saying quite for a while, and I don't need to be a genius. I think a lot of us knew Derek England would not be returning to the Vegas Golden Knights, and they are not going to be re-signing Derek England. He has his unconditional release, and I'm sure he's looking for a home. He does seem to appear to still want to play hockey. He'll only be 39 years old, and he might still have a little tiny bit of gas left in the tank, and do a team justice. Create depth on a team, kind of what the Vegas Golden Knights did when they signed free agent Thomas Jurko. He's on a one-way contract that's worth $700,000. And again, as I kind of mentioned what Derek England might be for another team, well, Jurko's a lot better player, and I won't say that's an absolute farce. He's not a lot better player. He's a checking player, a physical player, and he's a guy that'll come in. I think he's definitely going to start the season with the Silver Knights here in Las Vegas. And if Ryan Reeves or Will Carrier get hurt or are out for a game, he would be a perfect guy to replace them on the fourth line. He's a checking, little bit of an imposing attacking force as a winger. He definitely is physical. And, he will see the ice throughout the season for the Vegas Golden Knights. He's also played for, besides, they picked him up this year. He last played, with Edmonton, and he played. He's had in 52 career NHL points. He's got 22 goals, 30 assists in his career. He played most of his career with the Detroit Red Wings, believe it or not, and he's got postseason experience with them. So again, he adds depth, and again, a checking physical winger that could help out the Vegas Golden Knights in free agency. The biggest pursuit that they've gone, and we'll talk about the guys that they let go that most of us are familiar with, but they are pursuing an elite defenseman. And it's Alex Pietrangelo, who's been with St. Louis from 2008 to 2020. He was caught off guard when the Blues signed Torrey Krug, and so he is pursuing a new home, and he is on his way to Vegas, I think today, to meet with the brass, and keep your fingers crossed. He is as solid as they come and would be a great addition to this Vegas Golden Knights team. Exactly what they're looking for, another elite defenseman. Defense wins championship, and a guy like Alex Pietrangelo, Caleb, is a guy that would really make it work. The thing is, this is one of probably 3 or 4 visits he's going to make.
Right.
The Knights have the money. They can pay him.
How old is he?
He is, I think, late 20s.
Late 20s?
Yeah.
He's been in the league that long?
Yeah, he's been in the league 2008. So
that's what I'm saying. The length that he's been in the league would lead me to believe that he's older than that. But I mean, I was just going to mention that.
Maybe early 30s. I got to look it up. But matter of fact, I'll tell you right now how old Alex is. Hold on.
It just seems like if he is older, that he's
Vegas 30 years old. I was close.
30 years old.
He's 30 years old.
So that's not old.
No.
But it just seems like we were getting a lot of aging superstars, and I think it happened, because we were an expansion team to start with, but when age becomes a factor, especially if the team's going to be making these late postseason runs, and fatigue and age becomes a factor down the stretch. I'm not saying that it is a huge factor, but it just seems like we have a lot of aging stars.
No, we do, but
30,
as you mentioned, 30's not old.
It's not.
He'll be 31.
But 12
I think,
years,
in January.
12 seasons is long. That's a seasoned player to be 12 seasons.
It's a lot of work on your body and stuff to play that long in a physical sport. All sports really, but NHL is a pretty physical sport.
Right.
Next to football, it's without question the most physical sport, and it is difficult. But I still think a guy like Alex Pietrangelo, you do need these veterans. And the thing is, the Vegas Golden Knights are not a team in rebuild mode. They're a team in win now mode because of the players that they do have and the roster they have. They're a team that can compete for a Stanley Cup. So you want to find players that'll fit in, veteran players. You do got some younger guys coming up, but I do like Pietrangelo. If they can get him, it will be a huge get.
Is that the biggest get for them in the offseason? Is that the biggest spot to fill?
There's no question. He would be their biggest get in free agency for sure. And they'll see what they can get out of him. The guys that were let go, you talk about getting rid of age. Paul Stastny, he's 34 years old. He had 1 year remaining on his 3-year, $19.5 million contract that he signed back in July of 2018. They let him. They actually let him go to Winnipeg for a defenseman. We got Carl Dahlstrom from them. Not a bad pickup. And
did we get a pick too, right?
We got I think it's a second round pick next in 2022 for that. But they got it from the Winnipeg Jets. He's in the final year of his $850,000 for him for this year, so it's pretty cheap. He will be a nice addition to this team. And as we mentioned, another guy that got let go, but he's happy about getting let go because I think he'll see more ice time where he's going because they're a bad team. But John Merrill got let go, and the Detroit Red Wings gave him a 1 year, $925,000 contract. The guy was brought up. He was raised in Grand Blanc in Brighton, Michigan. He went to U of M. So what a perfect spot to go to get to play for your hometown. He grew up a huge Wings fan. So this is kind of like a dream. And Merrill's not an old guy. He's 28 years old. He's still got a good 5 years left in the league. So what a chance to get to go to Detroit and play with the Detroit Red Wings in your home team. Pretty darn cool. So I'm happy for Johnny Merrill. And one of the guys that was kind of a surprise, Tomas Nosek, stayed with the Vegas Golden Knights. And a little bit of a twist there that he's signed again.
This is going to be a jab for no reason. Why do all the teams in Detroit stink?
We got a whole nother show, Caleb. We could spend 2 to 3 hours talking about that, man. Well, no, because I've been trying to say that forever. The Red Wings had one of the longest
Yeah, they were
playoff
good.
runs.
They were good.
Well, they had this playoff run that spanned from like the late 80s all the way into about 40 years ago.
The Pistons were good.
Pistons have had a decent run. They won a couple of championships in the 80s. They won one in 2004, played in an NBA Finals again after that. So they've been okay. The Tigers, they've played in 2 World Series in the last decade. They lost in both of them. They won a big World Series in 84. But, yeah, I'm reaching to find things. And you notice I haven't said very much about the Lions, and that's because, again, just to reiterate, that team has won 1 playoff game in the Super Bowl era. Not made it to the Super Bowl, not breathed 1 playoff game in like 55 years. That is ridiculous.
Like the Clippers of the NFL.
Worse. I mean, because they've been around a lot longer than the Clippers have been, and so that makes them worse. But we'll talk about that in a minute. With the Golden Knights again, it is going to be interesting this year. You know, and you look at the draft, and a decent draft. You didn't expect a lot. They were picking 29th. They got Brendan Brisson, pretty decent centerman. They got him with the 29th pick overall. Lucas Cormier, who is a defenseman. They got in the 3rd round. They had 2 third-round picks. They got him with the 68th pick. The 91st pick, you got Jackson Hollum. He's a center, and they got a goalie in the 5th round, 125th pick, Jesper Vikman. He is a goalie out of Sweden. I played with AIK in Sweden, and Sweden has produced a lot of great goaltenders over the course of the history of the National Hockey League, so we'll see. We'll have more about that. We'll probably have a guest for Vegas Golden Knights wrapping up the season next week completely once free agency all wraps up. The draft is done, so we'll try to get someone on next week to talk about that as well. But right now, this was probably the most stunning thing I think all of us saw this last week next to the vice presidential debate would have been, I won't want to say a lie by Tom Brady, but,
On the final play.
Fact this. If you don't like the facts, take your ass back to bed. Fact this.
Yeah, it's a fact. Thursday night, on the final drive against the Chicago Bears, Tom Brady had a brain fart and did not know what down it was. This is how he responded to a question about that brain fart.
On the final play, you were. I mean, they made mention that maybe you didn't know it was 4th down. I can't imagine that was the case. What was? It was 4th and 5. You took a shot there. Great.
Yeah, I knew we needed a chunk, and I was thinking about more yardage, and then it was bad execution. And we had a great opportunity there, so just didn't execute when we needed to.
Caleb, did he answer the question?
I think he gave you the logical reason for throwing the pass that he threw on 4th down if it were 3rd down. So he didn't answer the question, which the answer to that would have been, yeah, I messed up. I thought I had more downs than I did.
Just when he didn't
because
say
he's Tom Brady, he's a GOAT. And
but
there's always an excuse for Tom.
No, but the GOAT would be able to say that and get away with it, and it would roll right off all of our shoulders. What I didn't understand and what made me think at that time, I said, you know what? For some reason, I'll bet Byron Leftwich yelled in, hey, it's 3rd down, do this, and here's our 4th down play. No, I know he didn't. I know he didn't. But my point is, you get my point? I'm thinking, if Tom Brady isn't going to say that he screwed up and he just, he lost track, it happens. I'm old. I had a senior moment. But the truth of the matter is, when he doesn't do that, it almost makes you, in a little bit, your mind starts thinking, well, you know what? He doesn't want to throw Byron Leftwich under the bus.
Maybe you can spin that story somehow for some people, but no, not me.
I don't believe it. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
Why wouldn't you? Because Caleb,
I would say what Ryan Clark was saying on ESPN after this. I think he was on Get Up the next morning. What he was saying is that maybe it's that Tom Brady isn't as precise as we thought he was. Maybe the Patriots organization is more precise. Maybe in New England, there was somebody in his headset saying, okay, it's 3rd down here. Okay, it's 4th down here. Okay, get some yards. And maybe because he doesn't have that now, maybe this franchise, maybe, Tampa Bay doesn't have that system where everybody communicates and is on the same page. And Tom Brady is expected to be the quarterback that every other quarterback is expected to be and be aware of down and distance and situation in the football game. Maybe, we harp on college quarterbacks for not knowing situations and down and distance. Who cares who was in his ear? He's supposed to know that. He's on the field. You're supposed to be aware of down and distance and the situation in the game. It's Tom Brady's job, not Byron Leftwich, not any other offensive coordinator's job to be in his headset, but Tom Brady's job to be on the field and know the down and distance. So his excuse, his question, whatever, throwing somebody else under the bus, there's nobody else to be thrown under the bus. Tom Brady's under the tires by himself. He made a mistake. Granted, there were so many other mistakes, like the penalty, the penalties that killed their drives before the game. And Tom Brady
He's
rightfully
not used to that.
No, Tom Brady rightfully jumped down that lineman's throat. It's a bonehead penalty. You cost the team 15 yards and a field goal in that situation, that drive. You killed the drive pretty much. So Tom Brady on the sideline, animatedly so, is ripping this guy a new one. And Tom Brady has every right to do that because that guy messed up in that situation. Well, who's going to jump down Tom Brady's throat when he is the one that makes a big mistake? There's no excuse for an NFL quarterback not knowing down and distance and the situation in the ball game. Get the first down. Everyone in the stadium knew, including his offensive linemen, the receivers, the defenders on the field, knew the situation. They played situational football, and Tom Brady made a bonehead decision, throwing 2 times in a row for deep chunk yardage instead of just getting the first down to keep the drive alive. So Tom Brady messed up. He's by himself under that bus. Someone needs to rip him the way that he was ripping everybody else for the mistakes that they made. That's just the way it is. He's not New England anymore. The structure's not there. He has to be a quarterback on the field like everyone else has to be. So I'm not giving Tom any excuses. That answer that he gave is crap. He was trying to wiggle his way around, just saying, I messed up. Just say it.
That's what I'm saying. It's like he is one guy, and it would be great to humanize himself and say, you know what? I'm in the heat of the moment. I'm going through the game. I was a little frustrated with the penalty that we had on the last drive. I'm a little bit bothered right now.
Yeah.
And I thought it was third down. When is the last time that happened to me in my career? Never.
Because he knows that is an elementary mistake at the position of quarterback to not know the down and distance.
But he also knows.
You come off of the GOAT set. We've elevated Tom Brady to this undeniable GOAT status in football. And Tom Brady believes it. Tom Brady believes that he's that untouchable. You see the way he yelled at Khalil Mack when he got hit, and it wasn't even a late hit.
The only one that touches Tom Brady's Giselle Bundchen. That's
exactly. And so Tom Brady's on this pedestal where he doesn't want to come down from it. And why would you? And that's why he doesn't want to retire. That's why he threw a fit when Jimmy Garoppolo got drafted, and he wanted him traded because he is the GOAT. We've fed his ego so much to where he now believes it. And he has just reason. I mean, the amount of Super Bowls he's won. But that's another story. He does deserve to be in that conversation for the GOAT.
Yeah, but still,
you have to be able to humble yourself.
Take accountability and show some humility. I mean, that's what you want. A role model will show humility every now and then. No one's going to think, oh, my God. We'd all kind of snicker like, hey, Tom Brady's human.
I think Tom Brady for years has been put on a pedestal. If Cam Newton were to yell at one of his players the way Tom Brady was, we'd be calling Cam Newton a bad loser, a hothead, all this, that, and the other. Because I've seen it. I've seen people do this to Cam Newton. Body language. The way that Tom Brady acts about his teammates when they make mistakes, his body language is awful.
I agree.
But nobody talks about that because he's Tom Brady. Why don't we treat everybody the same? Tom Brady gets differential treatment because he's Tom Brady. And because he was a New England Patriots quarterback. Be honest.
I mean, you see that in all sports, though. You do see preferential treatment for the greatest players in each sport.
No doubt. So but Tom Brady's just on another level.
And like
it's ridiculous.
I said, I don't have a problem with that. I just have, like I said, man, Tom, you're like Captain America. For God's sakes, be humble. Show humility. Don't sit there and skirt around a question. This wasn't a presidential or vice presidential debate. This is a post-game press conference where they're asking you a simple question and just say, you know what? I messed up. It happened. And this would be a moot point right now, and it wouldn't have been on the show, and it would have been over with.
It's not, because it's not in Tom Brady's character to do that. Tom Brady has never shown us that he can take that road and it's his fault and say anything like that. He's never shown us that. And you said every sport has preferential treatment. Yes, every sport does. But I remember LeBron himself, LeBron James, who's the GOAT in basketball right now, LeBron takes criticism more than anybody else as a superstar, right? Like, so LeBron leaving Miami, the way he did that. Everybody chastised LeBron for the way he handled that. LeBron last night or the other night passing it out to Danny Green. LeBron's been chastised for that. Tom Brady is the only one where it's a shock if he actually takes the blame for something that went wrong. If it's from New England days to now, Tom Brady, since he's been elevated to that GOAT
No, you're
status,
right. Yeah,
there's nobody can ever. He's been blameless in every instance in what he's done.
And I
as a
can't
quarterback.
argue with that.
And that, to me, that it bothers me because it does, in a way, take away from how good he actually is because he's dehumanized. It's like, okay, well, if you're a guy that can't make a mistake, even when you do make a mistake, it's not really your fault. We're looking for Byron Leftwich or somebody else to blame about it. Then that's, to me, you're not even human. Where's the risk in playing the game?
The difference is Tom Brady, LeBron James is still the GOAT. Okay, Tom Brady is the GOAT, but he's not the Gorn. He's not the greatest of right now. Okay, he's the GOAT, the greatest of all time. You can argue it. I mean,
I'm going to say this, and it's my last point about Tom Brady. Tom Brady is the GOAT based on accomplishment. Tom Brady is a GOAT based on team accomplishment.
Here's what I said.
Talent-wise, Tom Brady is maybe in the conversation for the GOAT, but there's a lot of quarterbacks throughout the history of the game that I would probably take before Tom Brady.
I say this all the time, Caleb, and I agree with that, and I say this all the time. I say, you know what? If I heard, when you argue this, that Tom Brady is like, say you get to pick your quarterback to start one game at one time, I would take Joe Montana. That's me. But
I take Aaron Rodgers.
Take Aaron Rodgers. But if you came to me and said, hey, Joe Montana's hurt, Tom Brady's going to start your game in his prime today, I'm not going to have a problem with it. But the point is, I'm not going to mind. Now, when you go to professional basketball and you tell me Michael Jordan's hurt, LeBron James is going to fill in, I'm probably not that bummed. But there's not many other names that I'm going to not be pissed off that it's not that Michael Jordan or LeBron James aren't starting for me. There's probably 10 quarterbacks you could tell me that are replacing Brady, and I'd be okay in the history. In basketball, there's maybe 5 guys.
Maybe in basketball, if you're talking about Jordan specifically, who is pretty much the GOAT, unquestioned. If you're talking about that, I would say there's maybe 4 guys that I would say, okay,
maybe,
I'm fine.
Maybe 4,
I'm fine.
But the point is, Jordan definitely sticks out. He's going first. In football, in my book, Tom Brady is not going to be the starting quarterback of my franchise, my all-time starting quarterback franchise. Yeah. I'm taking Joe Montana. Listen, we got to take a break. On the other side, we're going to have Emily Van Buskirk of we're looking very for her, the Sports Fan Journal, and we've got Jose Volonte, who was Straight Bet Sports, great show on Gorilla Cross Radio. We will be back right after this. Sunday morning, just about 8:30. And all kinds of stuff going on, man. NFL still going strong. We just heard a few minutes ago that the New England Patriots will no longer play tomorrow night at home against the Denver Broncos. They have moved that game to Week 6, and so New England, thanks to COVID-19, will forfeit their bye week. I guess that's a way you can make up a few games here and there, and luckily for New England, the bye week is next week, so they get screwed out. What about the Broncos, though? Where I don't think they share
the Broncos don't want to play anymore now.
But I'm saying, did they have a bye week as well? How are they playing next week? What are they going to do? Play two? They have big games back-to-back days?
That's the crucial part.
I'm going to have to look at that because I didn't know that the Broncos had a bye.
An ultra short week.
They must have really been lucky if they both had a bye week next week. That would be heaven sent. But interesting news. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. And joining us now on the Residential Bancorp Fox Sports studio line and also on StreamYard, I believe, or no, not yet. Spencer's got her going on StreamYard. Perfect. I wasn't sure. And look at that. She is wearing a mask because she knows that Caleb might have coronavirus and you might be able to catch it.
I have probably the strongest immune system of anyone in this room.
A long-time great friend of the show, Emily Van Buskirk. It's been a long time. Back now again with the Sports Fan Journal. Been with Yard Barker, minor league baseball, and probably as knowledgeable about college football as anybody I know. And I'll tell you what, she has taken the pandemic and COVID-19. If you've watched her stories on Facebook, man, she has been working out, running steps. Emily's ready to. Emily, are you going out for Stanford? Are they lacking on quarterback? And is that what's happening?
They're lacking a lot of things this season. Well, at least everybody left.
At least they have a football team still. For a minute there, I thought they might be like Cal and start bailing on sports.
Whoa, if anything, Stanford was the team in the Pac-12 that was trying to opt out of the season. They were the only one that actually didn't want to play.
No, you're right. They were the one team that really was adamant about that, and then you had this cohesion of players all complaining and trying not to play in the Pac-12 for other reasons as well. But everyone's playing now, and we'll talk about that in a minute because we got 3 conferences. Our little small D1 conference out here, the Mountain West, getting ready to kick off as well. But you've got the Big Ten and the Pac-12 getting the other Power 5 conferences going later this month, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with outbreaks happening in the NFL, games being postponed. How is that going to trickle down to the college level? Because I know, unlike the NFL, although the NFL can't afford it at all, college football, and especially a lot of these programs, cannot survive. And we're not talking about the program. We are talking about the university without the revenue brought in by college football and basketball. So they are doing everything, aren't they, Em, to have seasons?
I think 100%. And I've actually been to, I think this was my 5th game now that I've covered for college football. And a lot of the schools have adapted these new protocols, and the athletic departments are doing every single thing they can think of to try and get these games to happen. I was at Houston's game on Thursday night, and that was their first game of the season. They had yet to play because all of their opponents kept having issues with testing and trace, testing and all that. So it was good to just see their program get back on the field. And what a win for Dana Hogerson and his crew. I didn't think they were going to beat Tulane like that, but they really did. So it's been great to see these universities banding together and fighting this thing as one. So
I will say this, because of COVID and the late start from some of the other major teams, how different has college football been to cover this year? Because, I mean, you don't have the usuals, at least at this point, with Ohio State and Michigan in the conversation in the top 10 across the nation. How different has it been in these first few weeks where it's pretty much the SEC, and that's where our top 25 is right now? How different has that been for you?
It's absolutely been different, not only from an experience of what the game actually feels like, with no fans, sometimes a few fans. Last night, I think we had 4,000 at Western Kentucky, but I've been to Pittsburgh where they have none in Heinz Field. And Heinz is a huge stadium, so to have that atmosphere change, they pipe in crowd noise and they use music to kind of pump everybody up, but it is different. I don't think we'll ever see anything like this again, in the sports era. So we're really kind of taking part in history here. And even as a media member, when I go to a game, I don't go down to the sideline, so there's no access down there. You're just in the press box, and you're taking a lot of protocol. So you get your temperature checked when you go in. You answer questionnaires about your health. You do a screening, and then you don't really talk to anybody. You come in, you have plexiglass around your face in the press box, and you wear your mask the whole time, and you don't really talk to a lot of people. So it's a weird environment for sports writers, especially because it's usually kind of a camaraderie in there, and you're talking to people you haven't seen in a while. But now it's just you come in, you watch the game, you write about it, and you get out. So it's definitely different, but I'm making the best of it.
Are they still feeding the press or no? They got peanuts, like your own little bag of peanuts, and that's your lunch now.
It depends on where you go, but for the most part, they have been providing box lunches. So everything is packaged. It's all in your little box. You don't have to, get it from anybody. Nobody else touches it. So you just kind of grab your box. Like last night, we grabbed them at the ground floor, carried them up to the press box, ate our sandwiches at our spot, and then threw it away, and that was it. So it's very safe. They're keeping everybody safe, which is great. So.
Yeah, well, real quick, one of the things Spencer just told me to turn on. He said, "What did you say? Oh, you muted yourself. So is that right, you Spencer?"
Oh, no.
Hit the microphone button on your screen, and you'll unmute. No, we're hearing you on the radio, so you're good there, just not on StreamYard. So you're good there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, crazy. We're going to get to experience Caleb and I real soon as UNLV gets ready to kick off. I haven't gotten to Allegiant Stadium yet. They've been really tight on media because of the social distancing in the press box, so I haven't even seen it yet. Hopefully, I'll be at the Tampa Bay Raiders game next week, but getting excited about the Mountain West season. I'll definitely be at those games, so we'll get to experience what it's like in an empty stadium. It's got to be almost surreal, and I've been very interested in seeing that. But let's switch over college football. I know, like I said, hands on the trigger. You went to the Tulane-Houston game, pretty wild on Thursday night. You've definitely seen a few games, and college football itself, as much as like I've told Caleb, I just don't know he and I just differ on this about asterisks and stuff because it just doesn't feel the same to me, even though you've got cutout cardboard figures in the stands and some of the stadiums are having social distancing. It just doesn't feel the same to me. But then again, yesterday, the only thing bad about yesterday, if you are a fan of defense, okay, if you like defense, yesterday was not a day to watch college football because defenses reminded me of the best Swiss cheese I've ever eaten. There were holes everywhere in almost every game I've watched. But some of those games like Alabama, my God in heaven, I want to tell you something. My feeling, and I think you echo the sentiments about my feelings about Lane Kiffin, now the head coach at Ole Miss. It almost looked like he was up to his old antics. He looked like he had Nick Saban's playbook, especially defensively. My God, they whatever defense Nick Saban presented, it's Lane Kiffin had an answer for. That is kind of unusual when playing Alabama, right? And I know he was a former assistant, but come on.
Yeah, you have to remember that he played. He coached with him, and these two have known each other for a very, very long time. And I was at the Senior Bowl last year, and I was talking to the Auburn defensive coordinator Kevin Steele, who is also coached in that Alabama regime with both Saban and Kiffin. And he had stories to tell me where Kiff and Saban just did not get along. It's not that they're not friends. It's just that they have very different philosophies on life, on football, and all of that stuff. So he told me about a time when they would face each other on the field, and Saban would call out plays that he knew Kiffin wasn't ready for just to mess with him and expose him during practice. So there's definitely a back and forth between the two of them, but they know each other very well because they know how to push each other's buttons. So that did not surprise me in the least that Kiffin came in ready for that. But I knew he wasn't going to be able to finish the game because they're just not there yet. He takes over programs like this that still have a lot of work to do. So it was fun to watch, but in the end, I figured Alabama would pull it out.
You talk about the impact of knowing your opponent, and no two teams I don't think are more familiar with each other than Texas and Oklahoma, the Red River rivalry, which in my opinion was a game of the week. Those two teams going at it 4 overtimes. Have you seen I've had this discussion with people in my circle that this is probably the most intense rivalry in college football right now, as far as how close these games have been, how great these games have been over the past 10, 15 years. Is there a better rivalry, in your opinion, than Texas-Oklahoma right now?
Oh, that is such a tough question because rivalry games are like their own category, right? Because you can't be certain what's going to happen. And going into this Oklahoma-Texas game, I honestly picked Oklahoma because I knew two things. A, it's the Red River, so it's going to be crazy no matter what. And B, the Big 12 is kind of a mess right now. So if there were ever a time for Texas to prove that they're not back again, it would be this game. So I was surprised that it went to, the 4 overtimes or whatever that was. But you have to admit that Ellinger is a gamer, and he did battle back. Rattler's fun to watch, too. Both good quarterbacks. But as far as rivalries, you may be right. I got to say Florida-Georgia is always a good one.
I got one. Watch. Now, those games are close. Like Texas and Oklahoma have been close. But you're going to say there's a bigger rivalry than Michigan-Ohio State?
Boy!
It's just been so lopsided.
No, you're right. No, that's what I'm saying.
It's just Ohio State.
Yeah, Harbaugh can't beat Ohio State, but the bottom line is that rivalry
nationally
is ridiculous.
Yes,
but you're right. Texas Oklahoma is a lot of fun, and I'm running short on time. So a couple things. The last thing about college football, I would have talked. I said I thought Miami had as good of a chance as maybe anybody, if anyone's going to beat Clemson this year. I think they're the clear-cut number 1 team once again. They stumble at times, but when Trevor Lawrence's game that guy got just buried in the breadbasket yesterday, came back and just played without missing a beat and still runs in for a touchdown, taking it in that. This guy, it is a Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. Lions, you have to continue to lose. I'm going to say that over. Detroit Lions, keep losing, please. Find ways to lose like you do every year so we might be able to get a franchise quarterback, because if there's ever been, to me, a no-miss prospect, it is Trevor Lawrence. This guy is going to be a superstar, barring injury. He's going to be unreal. But I wanted the last question about college football is, how about we talking about Texas? How about former Texas coach Mack Brown and the job he is doing down in North Carolina? Yeah. A lot of people said football has passed Mack Brown by. Obviously, it has not.
No, it's funny because I was not a believer in the beginning of all of this North Carolina hype. I was skeptical. I wanted to see how the quarterback was really going to perform. But I had been told by a friend of mine that coached there under Mac Brown before my friend left, and said that they are the real deal, that this team is incredibly talented, and especially the quarterback. So I'm on the train now. I think Mac Brown has done an incredible job, and to turn a program around like North Carolina, where it's a basketball school, okay? We haven't had football like that there in a minute, and he's now making this North Carolina team relevant so that the NC State-North Carolina game is going to be epic, like it used to be. I've heard stories about that rivalry game from old coaches, and I'm excited that we're finally going to get that back this year. And that's the best thing about this COVID era, is we're seeing some really fun football, you know?
Oh, we are.
Because what do we have to lose? People are saying the season doesn't count. They're saying it's not real. So coaches and players are just going out there and doing what they love and having fun with it. Back to the roots. So
no, I agree 100%, and it just shows you it hasn't passed Mac Brown's eye. I said you can be 100 years old and still coach football and win. So enough of that.
Edwards is doing it over at ASU.
Hey,
so.
No question about it. That's a lot of fun, and it's a conversation for another show. Last thing I'll say, I saw on the Facebook your good friend who we've had on the show here too. I love the guy, Joey Chestnut, and you getting all fit. You took him on. Who could eat a taco faster? He didn't get to use his hands. Who won?
He won. I have a clip of that I'm going to be posting later. He beat me eating a taco, not using his hands, and I used my hands. I was not able to beat Joey Chestnut eating a taco with my hands and him just using his mouth. So he's incredible. He's the champion.
I'm going to challenge him. I want to be able to eat one of those little miniature appetizer dogs against him with a full hot dog and see if I can even beat him with one of those. Probably not.
You won't. It happens so fast that you'll blink and he'll be done. That's it.
It's so cool.
It's crazy.
Emily Van Buskirk, again, love you coming on the show, Em. I know it's been a while. Definitely check her out. Sports Fan Journal. She is all over college sports, especially football and basketball, as well as anybody in the country. Appreciate you, Em, and I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Thanks, guys. Good to see you.
Tell us about your podcast before you go. Where can they hear it?
Oh, yeah. Sideline Fast Podcast, anywhere you listen, Spotify, Google Play, Apple. Check it out. I've had some great guests on lately. Joey's definitely going to be making an appearance soon, so we'll be talking about competitive eating, and I have some good college football things lined up coming up. So
I'm excited.
It out.
Sideline Sass with an extra S. We appreciate you.
Yes.
That's Emily Van Buskirk. We're going to jump over to the other line right now. We got Jose Volonte parked on the Fox Sports Radio Residential Bancorp studio line, and we'll do this quick. What's up, Jose?
What's going on, guys? Long time. How's everything going?
Oh, good, man. Jose, you can check him out every Wednesday night. It is called Straight Bet Sports on Gorilla Cross Radio. I've joined the show before. Really cool. They got a great setup. You can watch video. You can hear him. And Jose's got his finger on the pulse of sports here in Las Vegas and probably has the most comprehensive coverage of the Las Vegas Lights than anyone that I know. Jose, very, very sound and astute in the game of football. Not football. He's good there, too. But the game of soccer. Jose, you've done a lot with the Lights this year, and they played through this for the most part. They were one of the teams and one of the earlier teams playing through the COVID-19 virus. How did that go over there, and what was it like covering them during this thing?
To be honest with you, it was one of the most craziest seasons to cover of any team that I've done in my young media career. It was just crazy because there was a lot of locker room situational stuff going on with players going back and forth. There was players that left during the season what other people didn't even know about. You had a coach that got fired after the first game of the season during the COVID for doing a practice that he wasn't supposed to do. I mean, there's so much back and forth. You bring in a coach that's a friend of the owner, so we basically know he's not going to be there for a long time. He just wants to get in and out, finish the season. Now there's a lot of question marks. Who do you bring in this season coming up? How many fans are going to be allowed, if any, coming up with this whole COVID situation? What players are going to stick around? Because you have local town favorites like Tommy Olson that played here, that is from Vegas, that wants to stay around. You know, you have players like Ramon Martin del Campo that, because he spoke about his political views and how he felt on social media, he's no longer with the team and he's somewhere else. So it's going to be an interesting season again, I think, to say the least.
And out at Cashman, I personally have yet to see a game out there, but I'll tell you, when I see the pictures and some of the stuff you post, it is really cool. It's a great opportunity, and hopefully, it's harder. The smaller the stadium, the harder it is to social distance and get fans in a stadium, and Cashman is not the biggest place, but hopefully they'll find a way. The cool thing is you have grassy knolls there where people can go up and figure out a way. Jose, some of the other stuff. Tell us some stuff coming up on Gorilla Cross Radio. What do you got going on this week?
So we're trying to get some more UNLV football players to come on the show. Hopefully we have Jalen Graves coming on. We had him on the first show that you joined when we started at Gorilla Cross as well. Just trying to reach out to more people. We hopefully have some of the coaches coming on. We can't get them in studio because of the whole COVID situation, but we'll be doing video just the same way that you're doing there. And not only that, our contract was supposed to end next month. Our sponsor jumped on. We have another 6 months. So we'll be going through next year, which is pretty cool. So we got a lot to go, a lot more to do, but make sure you check us out every Wednesday night on Gorilla Cross Radio here in Las Vegas.
Absolutely. And what time's the show?
9 p.m. every Wednesday, 9 p.m.
Check him out every Wednesday at 9 p.m. And Jose, to deserve the give you the credit, the StreamYard that you see all these people using all over town, he was one of the first people to implement that. And now you see radio stations do it. It was a great call, my friend. We appreciate you, Jose. Check him out, Gorilla Cross Radio online every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. Some good stuff.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one. Enjoy your Sunday football.
Absolutely. Listen, we're going to take our final break right now. On the other side, we've got our picks of the week. We'll try to squeeze in some NBA Finals talk, Major League Baseball down to the ALCS and the NLCS. Which team's going to win it all? And who's our picks of the week? You got to stick around and find out. Out of line, Fox Sports Radio. Got about 10 minutes left in the show, guys, so we will pick it up a bit. Caleb, NBA Finals. I mean, come on, man. You got to take your hats off. I know, not that we haven't been giving him mucho respect, but Jimmy Butler was Michael Jordan the other night.
No.
He played all but 48 seconds of that game, and he willed the Miami Heat to that victory. I'm not going to say, he's not Michael Jordan. But the point is Michael Jordan had the ability to will a team to victory. Most players are incapable of doing that. Back before there was three-headed monsters, like now you have all these teams with three great players. The ones with two don't seem to get over the hump, although LA's two great players are three great players in two bodies.
They're 48 minutes away.
They are. But the point is Jimmy Butler with an injured Bam Adebayo, without one of their key players as well in Drago, this team is playing as good as they could possibly play against Lakers, and I don't think anybody, including myself, gave them a chance to win more than one game in the NBA Finals. And again, like he did throughout the Eastern Conference playoffs, once again, Jimmy Butler said no.
Yeah, so first of all, Jimmy Butler deserves great credit because not only is he doing it, carrying the load in crunch time offensively, he's guarding LeBron James. He's a primary defender on LeBron James. Now, LeBron James scored 40 plus points last game, but he's taking on the challenge in crunch time.
He made LeBron James give up the rock at times where LeBron wouldn't have to.
So I give him credit for that as well, the energy it takes. I give Spoelstra credit, and I think it actually works to their benefit with Dragic being hurt. Tightening up that rotation, 7 players played last game.
Without Goran Dragic, this team has. It's amazing they've won 2 games without him.
This is the thing. I think when you have. Sometimes it benefits you because sometimes the best play comes from your best player having the ball in the hands. So Jimmy Butler now has been forced to have the ball in his hands more than he normally would. Dragic has been great, but he's not the best player on that team. The best things don't happen. He's not a mismatch that the Lakers just can't switch onto or anything like that. So Jimmy Butler having the ball in his hands more often than not is better for the Heat. That 7-man rotation is better for the Heat. All 7 players that are playing are a threat to score, a threat to be a problem offensively. So tightening up the rotation is something you usually see in the playoffs anyway, but now because of injury, Spoelstra has been forced to do it more than he normally would. And because of that, Jimmy Butler's usage is up, and he's producing with that usage.
Did you see at the end of the game? I mean, Jimmy Butler.
That back and forth was probably the most epic back and forth.
Trying to cover LeBron. At the end, he's literally almost collapsed on the scorer's table. And then he gets out and bangs 2 free throws down. I mean, this dude is ridiculous.
That sequence of 4 plays back and forth was probably the most fun I've had watching a basketball game in a long time.
I never thought the Miami. If you would have told me,
and LeBron ruined it passing it to Danny Green. By the way, that back and forth was epic. I would have rather LeBron take that shot over 4 defenders and miss it, and I'd be totally okay with that.
He should have taken the shot.
Because it would have been the way to go down. Right. Like, you go down with your leader take you down.
The GOAT takes the shot.
Now, doesn't discredit the rest, because he played almost a perfect game outside of the he plays. He's a dominant force when he's in that mode, and he was in that mode. I think he really wanted to win that game, so I think Danny Green probably got punched in the chest in the locker room for missing that wide open 3. I mean, Bryan could have made that shot. That was That was too far. I don't think Bryan could have made it. But Danny Green, you got paid to come do that, and you miss it. But I'm glad that the series goes on, honestly, because it's been some fun basketball. The first 2 games, you kind of thought it was going to be a blowout. But it's turned into a fun series. Even if the Lakers win 4-2, it's been a fun series because of the birth of Jimmy Butler as a bona fide superstar in the league.
A leader.
The vindication he's getting for being pushed out of town twice by teams that really didn't understand winning. And you see where those teams are now. So that vindication, Miami versus LeBron. Then, of course, if it ends with the Lakers getting a championship, it's great.
And again, I've been talking about this for several weeks now, but doesn't that speak volumes for Eric Spoelstra that he can get along and understand Jimmy Butler and the way that this guy, because maybe it's because of coaching the egos of a LeBron James, a Dwayne Wade, a Chris Bosh over his career, but the way guys like Butler can come in and no one's really been able to just really get into Jimmy's head because the guy loves the game of basketball and he's a natural leader. And like you said, we've learned it this year. But real quickly, not to stick on that subject, but if you would have told me at the beginning of the bubble that the NBA Finals were going to be the Miami Heat and the Los Angeles Lakers, and it was going to at least be 6 games, I would have definitely told you need to stay away from the dispensaries. And yet, we're watching it.
Yeah, and that's why you play the game. And I mean, and that's why you don't trust people that haven't been there before. Granted, Spoelstra's been there before. He's coached his way. Pat Wright. First of all, I'm going to say this.
Pat Riley. Oh, yeah.
Spoelstra is an extension of Pat Riley. Spoelstra's personality, his demeanor, the team's demeanor is an extension of Pat Riley and what he wills it to be. That's number one. Not to take credit away from Spoelstra for what he's done. But when you look at the roster and the guys that have stepped up in major ways, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero they don't win that game without Duncan Robinson. Not just because of the 26 points that he had, but because of his
They might not
gravity.
be in the series without Tyler Hero.
Yeah, they've got a lot of talent on this roster that people may have overlooked coming into the season for whatever reason. Miami has been a dangerous team throughout the season, but for whatever reason, got overlooked. Now, here they are in the finals. Not going to say anybody would have expected it, but they are a gritty team who, like you said, takes on the owner or the president and the coach's personality of we're not going to give up, we're not going to back down, we ain't scared of nobody.
I love what Jimmy Butler said. It's win or win. It's not win or go home to him. It's win or win.
Yeah, you have two choices.
No other alternative.
Win or die trying to win.
Right.
That's all there is.
The thing is it won't come out of his mouth other than the word win. And I like that. We do got to move on. Real quickly, I'm saying, believe it or not, I am saying the Los Angeles Lakers are going to lose today and win in Game 7. I don't know why, but I just think so.
I think if they lose today, they lose in Game 7, honestly. And that's a Laker fan talking.
And they
Game 7,
and they may get Gordon
them.
back for Game 7, although with plantar fasciitis, he'll still be useless. Listen, real quickly, we're going to fly through Major League Baseball. You've got the matchups, the Dodgers and the Braves, a great matchup. If there's one team left, in my opinion, that can beat the Dodgers, it is the Braves because of that pitching staff that they have. And the Dodgers pitching staff, when you get depth, worries me a little bit, but I just think the Dodgers are a juggernaut, although I think the Braves and Dodgers is going to be a fantastic series, and I'm definitely going to be watching this one.
The Dodgers have been the best team in baseball since maybe like the halfway point of the season, the last 30 games of the shortened season. The Dodgers have been the best team in football. They've had a historic run over that stretch, but it's the playoffs, and the more important thing here is that Kershaw is healthy. So, he's healthy. He's not tired like he usually is at this time during the postseason runs after a long season. So, I think this is the year the Dodgers get over the hump. And that's just my opinion. I've thought this for 4 years, and I'll believe it when I see it because the Dodgers have a way of choking down the stretch. But we'll see. I think the Dodgers still are the top team of the 4 remaining. I'm so glad the Yankees got eliminated.
You went so far out on a limb for that. The Dodgers are the top team of the 4 remaining.
Yeah, I'm just saying. But it
would have been
Dodgers
nice to
lose.
see the Yankees. I still think the Rays and the Astros will be a good series. Just please, Tampa Bay, get Houston the hell out of here.
They shouldn't have even been allowed to play this
I
season.
understand. It's just bothersome. But at least there's a villain in Major League Baseball for us all to pull against.
That's not the
Yankees. And that would be the Houston Astros. Yeah, not the Yankees. Pretty crazy. Yeah, it would have been tough with the Yankees Astros, although the Yankees Dodgers would have been an iconic series. Listen, final real quickly, getting to the NFL. Of course, the Raiders, after winning an S&B with C, after winning their first 2 games, Caleb, they have now lost 2 in a row. And another tough road to haul is they're going to play the reigning Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Any chance against this team today?
No. Even if with a healthy roster, I don't think so. And with the way that they've been banged up in key positions and their offense has taken a blow and the way their defense has looked, the Bills made the Raiders defense look like a high school football team. And across the NFL, defenses have struggled. I don't think that the Raiders looked as bad as the Cowboys defense, but I think that against the Chiefs, you can't have errors.
Well,
it's
the question is Kansas City just that good? And the answer is yes, they are.
That's pretty much. They're going to win the division again, and they will likely be back in the Super Bowl unless Baltimore has something to say about that in the postseason.
Kansas City plays their best game. There is not a team out there that can beat them, and maybe not even a team that can compete with them for 4 quarters when they are firing on all cylinders. Almost out of time. We'll do our pick segment real quick. All of us were correct. Damon, Spence, myself, Caleb, the only one who was wrong is Magnum out of studio, 0-4. So Magnum's pick of the week to get off the snide. He's going to jump on the Spencer, the Wiz Ostrowski bandwagon, and he is going with the Kansas City Chiefs, giving up the 11.5 points in Arrowhead, and he's going with them, and that's it for Mag. So we'll see if he can get off the snide. Caleb, you won last week. You went against the Raiders last week, took the Bills, got yourself a win. Me and you both get back to 500. Who are you taking this week?
I took the Wiz's way of picking last week. I'm not going to do it this week. I'm actually looking at the team that I wanted to pick. I want to pick the Cowboys because I feel like the Cowboys are a better team than they've shown than their record. And I think it's because of a lot of turnovers and key position. I think the Cowboys clean it up and they cover. I think it's 7.5.
It's actually 8.5 points, but you can give up 10.5.
I'm taking the Cowboys.
All you have to say is they're playing the Giants, and you can end it right there. Wiz, what do you got for me? You are leading the pack at 3-1.
I'll take the easiest game of the week, the Texans. I think it's like -5.5 against the Jaguars. They're still riding this Week 1 performance against the Colts, but it's not fooling me.
All right, the Jaguar. Listen to that. He's the hottest guy here, so you can go with him. Damon, you've been pretty hot yourself. Who do you got?
Seahawks.
Not even a hesitation. He's going with Seattle. They are giving up 7 points at home against Minnesota. I like that as well. The 1-3 Vikings and Kirk Cousins, bye-bye. And you know what? I am going to go with Baker Mayfield and the Brownies at home, getting points at home. Actually, they're not. It's a pick-em, but they're playing the Indianapolis Colts. It will be a tough matchup, but I really like what I have been seeing out of the Cleveland Browns. They're finding ways to win, and Odell Beckham decided he wants to play football again the last couple weeks. So if Odell Beckham still has it in him, man, he is as good as it gets. So that's who I'm going with, guys. We'll see what happens next week. A lot of good games on the slate today. Check them out. You've got the NBA Finals coming up today. Game 6 at 4:30 this afternoon. I know I'll be locked into that one as well. We are here every Sunday, same time, same place. I'm Bryan Feldman, this Out of Line, thanking Caleb Herring, Spencer the Wiz Ostrowski, Damon Cotton behind the big board, and our guests, Emily Van Buskirk and Jose Volonte. Same time, same place, next week, 8 o'clock. Bye.